Hi, ladies and gents. Okay. All right. How's the audio? You can see there's guys who are joining us from different platforms. How's the audio, guys? Can I get thumbs up on the audio? Is the audio okay? Guys, can you hear me? If you can hear me, can I just get a thumbs up? Okay, thank you. Thank you for the guys who are on YouTube and the guys on Facebook. Good. So the audio seems to be working nicely. I'm just trying to set up the audio to make sure that everything is pashash. Okay. All right, cool. So the audio is working nicely and the video is going okay. I just wanted to see if there's going to be more people joining us. I can see there's more people joining. So the time is 9:05. We did say that we'll start at what you call at 9 o'clock. So I think 9:05. Okay, I can see people still joining. It's good. All right. Let's see. Let's get started. Just need to. There you go. All right, guys. Welcome to the Graduate Engineer Accelerator online seminar, and my name is Nkululeko Tusini, and I'll be your facilitator today. So before we get started, let me just introduce myself so that you know who you're talking to, and so you can get comfortable. And from getting comfortable, then you can most probably ask more questions as we proceed. So I do want this session to be very interactive. So I do expect to get a lot of questions from the guys. And if you got any questions, the guys on YouTube, you can put your questions on the comment section, and the guys on Facebook, you can do the same thing. Put your questions on the comment section. Comment section. So, guys, if you've got any friends who you think might benefit from this, can you please what you call tag them on the comment section, send them a WhatsApp, send them a message, and make sure that they join the session, because I promise you, once you're done with this session, like a lot of the questions that you have about your career as a graduate engineer will be answered, and you will start having like a clearer picture on how you can move your career forward. So my name is Nkululeko Tusini, and I love sharing information and helping technical persons gain skills. So I'm a mechanical engineering by profession and the CEO of Palucraft Pty Limited, and I'll tell you more about Palucraft in the upcoming slides. But I think the important thing here is my background of being a mechanical engineer and starting Palucraft, which is a skills development and a training company. And yeah, so that love of sharing information and helping people gain more skills led to me actually finding this company called Palucraft Pty Limited, which we have different divisions like GCC Study, Engineering Academy, and other training services. So I'm a qualified facilitator, meaning that I literally went and did formal training on how to facilitate, how to develop training programs, and how to deliver training programs that are impactful. Speak slowly, okay. That are impactful. Thanks, Khalid. I'll do that. So I've done the what you call the formal training to develop programs that are impactful and that can actually get a person from not knowing exactly what they need to do to knowing what they need to do. So my qualifications, I've got a bachelor's in mechanical, I've got a master's in engineering, and I've got a lot of other certifications like a PRN, CM, PMP. I've got over 10 years experience in the engineering industry, worked for the likes of Rand Water, John Thompson, Eskom, Sasol. And then after Sasol, I moved into consulting, where that's where the training business actually started, and that's where I accelerated the whole skills development and training initiatives. So I've worked in design, I've worked in maintenance, project management. I've worked as a divisional manager for one of the consulting companies. So I've climbed the ladder, I've climbed the engineering ladder, so I know exactly what it takes to actually climb the ladder. So if right now you're joining us and you're a graduate engineer, you don't have more than the target market actually for this session is for guys who don't have like more than 2 years experience, and for guys who are actually starting to work this year and you're really confused on like what exactly you need to do. So I think I've got the experience and the what you call I've learned from the industry on what exactly you need to do and what sort of things that you need to think about as you advance your career. So I'm trying to move very quickly in this first part because it's not the core of today's session, but it's important that you know who I am and you know who Palucraft GCC Study is. So before you understand like who exactly we are, it's good to actually look at our history and where do we come from. Now, our history is that we were founded in 2014, and during 2014, I had a lot of frustrations, and those frustrations in the industry led to me starting an engineering blog where I was sharing more information to other graduates so that they don't experience all the problems that I experienced and all the challenges that I experienced. So the whole idea was, okay, let's share this information, and by sharing this information, then what you call the other people who are coming, then they can have it much easier. So I did this engineering blog, and this engineering blog then later on evolved into a website, and I started blogging more about GCC factories because during that time I was interested in this GCC factories, and I saw that there was just too much information. There was not enough information that was available on the internet, and when you try to get information, it felt like people were holding like this information for whatever reason. So I thought, okay, let's get the information and share it with everyone. And once we share it with everyone, then we what you call everyone, all the people that I shared with don't have to struggle like I struggled. So fast forward, Palucraft moved from a personal blog to Polycraft GCC Study, and we started developing material, like training material. We started doing courses and so forth. And between 2017 and 2019, like the whole GCC factories accelerated quickly, and then we moved into a business consumer model, and we had a lot of students enrolling on their personal capacity. And then between 2019 and 2020, we started working with actual business, employers who were saying, look, we've got these employees who are interested in GCC factories. Can you help them out? And then we started helping at that level. So that's the history of Polycraft. So between 2020, as we all know, 2020 was like a very crazy year for everyone. So in 2020, then we started expanding into other skills development and training initiatives, such as your GCC Minds. And GCC Minds. Then we have the engineering in Africa, and we are expanding in a much broader skills development and training. And part of what we're doing today is that expansion to say, well, for the guys who are interested in moving from just being an EIT to being a senior engineer, what are the sort of things that you need to do, and how we can support you in actually defining those things. So our vision statement is very simple. We want to contribute positively to the engineering industry, and we contribute positively into the industry by providing reliable and accessible information. By doing this, we help or assist engineers, technologists, and technicians advance their careers. Now, if we help all the engineers, technologists, and technicians to advance their careers, then they can in turn contribute positively to the engineering industry. And then once they contribute positively, and then the whole cycle continues, where we can or they can also provide that reliable and accessible information, and then assist other engineers, and the cycle continues. So our vision is to operate in this engineering ecosystem by making it better. So what do we do exactly? So we help you decide, we help you learn, and we help you succeed. So the way that we help you decide is through these sort of information sessions, where we share like information on what can you do to actually advance your career in engineering. And then we help you learn through our self-study books. We've got courses and online courses. And if you're interested in any to learn more about our books, courses, online courses, you can visit polycraft-gccstudy.com. And the other thing that we do is we help you succeed. So we have this sort of informal mentorship that we do. And again, what we have today is part of that session, where we're trying to help you succeed. And at the end of the day, it's all up to you whether you take the initiative to advance your career. So for the guys who have joined us on Facebook and YouTube today, really appreciate that you're here. And so it means that you are also serious in actually learning more and succeeding in your engineering career. So if you want to get in touch, you can visit our website. On our website, there is the address there, www.polycraft-gccstudy.com. At the bottom right of the website, you will see there's a chat box there. Then you can just click that chat box and you can get in touch like that. You can check us out on Facebook. So the guys on Facebook, chances are you're already on our Facebook page. If you're on YouTube, you are on our YouTube channel. And if you want to get in touch on LinkedIn, we are available as Polycraft GCC Study, and on Twitter we are GCC Study. Right. I wanted to accelerate on that information because yeah, so it's not really the core of why we're here. And yeah, so I don't want to spend too much time on that part of the session today. So let's go into the meat of why are we here. So far, is everyone still okay? I'm just checking the comments. Is everyone still okay? Can I get some thumbs ups? Are we still okay? All right. So, why are we here today? The purpose of this online seminar is to provide the graduate engineer with the guidelines on to help them transition from school life to work life. So as I said, that the target, like the specific target market for this is guys who are either in their first year or even their second year of working as engineers, and you feeling like very confused, and you don't have the mentors, you don't have the guidelines, and you're looking for some guidelines on what exactly can you do to move to the next level. And if you are starting this year to work, then what sort of thing, like what's your mentality, like what are you supposed to be doing, um like as of today, moving forward, to make sure that you position yourself properly for promotions or for other jobs and so forth. So if you're in your first or your second year of working, even guys who are actually doing their fourth year, if you know anyone who's doing their fourth year, tag them and let them know that this live session is happening, because even the guys who are like in their fourth year, third year, they can benefit from this, because it will prepare them for actually, like thinking ahead to say, okay, this is what's going to happen, once I graduate. So yeah, so if that's your profile, then you're in the right place. And yeah, and then you'll benefit a lot from the content that I'm going to be sharing. So the reason that we are here was based on a diagnosis, firstly from our own research, and a diagnosis from interacting with our past and current students, and trying to to understand what are their frustrations, and why are they feeling that frustrated. And what I found was that, like, all the frustration and the confusion, it's not entirely the student's fault or the graduate's fault. There's other systematic things that are happening, and because of those systematic things that are happening, then you find yourself in the situation that you're in. So one of the biggest problems is the issue of role models, mentors, and career coaches for graduates. So a lot of graduates don't get the opportunity to actually get a formal mentor, especially if you go and work. Like I feel like if you go and work in a big organization like corporate, then you get that problem, because now in corporate there's just too many things happening, and people are just going about their own business. And you'll see in upcoming lectures, in upcoming slides, where I talk about transitioning into work life. Like, what do I mean by saying that people are just busy trying to figure out their own lives? So you coming here, now you trying to stress them out and whatever. So not everyone can be a mentor. So, and there's very few mentors, especially for engineers out there. And the other thing that I've realized is that there's not a lot of role models for engineers as well. So you find a situation where you find a situation where you do not have that person to say, oh, okay, that mechanical engineer did this and did that, and and they're succeeding. So there's not a lot of those sort of role models in the whole engineering space. And when it comes to career coaches, again, you're finding a situation where a lot of career coaches are better suited for like accountants or lawyers or whatever, and there's not a lot of career coaches that are more suited and understand the problems of a graduate engineer, and later on in your career as an engineer, on what sort of challenges are you going to experience and how to navigate this whole thing. The other problem is that a lot of graduate engineers have vague career goals, and sometimes they probably don't have career goals at all. So for the guys who are for you, the ladies and gents who are joining us today, do you have a career goal? Can you put it on the comment section? If you're confident enough, brave enough to say yes, I've got a career goal, you can put it on the comment section and say yes. Raise your hand and say yes, you've got a career goal. Now, if you do have a career goal, then the next problem is your career goal is very vague and not specific enough to, and not what you call achievable. It's not specific and it's not achievable. It's very like wishy-washy. And again, it's not your fault that it's very wishy-washy. There's not enough information that is out there. There's not enough support from mentors and coaches and career coaches to help you actually define your career goal much better. So again, it's not entirely your fault. So yeah, so that's the other problem that we've actually identified with why a lot of graduate engineers end up, like being very confused. And this confusion leads to, when you fast forward, right, you see a lot of engineers in their fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth year of working, and they just all over the place, and they don't know whether they're coming or they're going. And today's session is trying to help you to not get to that year 5, 6, 7 and feeling all confused and resentful of your career, feeling like you're stuck. So in order to prevent that stuckness in the future, you need to understand your career goals today and actually plot out career goals that make sense. Now, once you've got that career goal, you need to have a plan to execute that goal. So again, you've got a lot of guys who, with because of the either not having, if you don't have a goal, then you don't have a plan. So then, yeah, then that's the end of it. But if you do have a goal, but it's very vague, then you find that your plan on executing the goal then becomes very vague. And when it's very vague, then it becomes sort of like a problem, because it's actually not going to be achievable. And then fast forward a couple of years down the line and you've got a problem. So the other thing is, now, okay, you've got this plan, you've got this goal, you've got this plan, but for some reason things are not working out. Like, you're still feeling frustrated. The opportunities are not opening up. You've got challenges getting the job. So even the guys right now, if you're starting to work, like you started working this year or your second year, there was a lot of retrenchments that happened in 2020, and you're struggling again to what you call getting back into the job market. So there's this frustration that you're feeling, even though you've got your goals, your plans. And like, what we found is that some of this frustration is not understanding like what work life is all about, and you never actually transitioned properly from student life to work life. And the other thing is that you just have a terrible CV. So that's the biggest thing. Like, a lot of guys just have terrible CVs, and when you look at their CVs, like, oh my gosh, like it's not clear what exactly are you where exactly have you been and where exactly you're trying to go. So because of that lack of clarity, then it just makes your CV terrible and you just unable to get the job. So that's the reality. So yeah, so I think after today, then you'll be able to sort out some of these problems. And again, I want to emphasize, it's not your fault. It's not entirely your fault, but because you're here today, you are taking that first step that first step to actually try to solve some of these frustrations, some of these problems. So how we're going to solve these problems, we're going to address each of these problems systematically, and by providing you with information and the tools that you can use to actually succeed with this thing. So this is the methodology that we've devised to say, well, if you've got all these problems, lack of role models, lack of mentors, lack of career coaches, you've got vague career goals, you've got vague professional development plan, you've got a terrible CV, you've got work-life frustrations, you're trying to find a job and you're not getting the job, and you're not even getting any responses, then you need to follow these these steps that we've devised. And once you follow these steps, like I promise you, this is the exact steps that I followed personally to get to the level that I got in my career. And these are the steps that a lot of the guys that I mentor go through. And once they go through these steps, they actually end up succeeding, because they end up getting what they want, because they plan for what they want. So step number one, you need to understand the different career path and career path choices. Now, the biggest problem, and this is something that this week I had a mentorship session with one of the guys who just asked me to just provide some advice. And during the sit down, what I realized was that the individual did not understand the different career paths that he can choose from. And from those different career paths, then you if you don't understand which path you are following, then you end up in a situation where you've got a mixture of different certifications that you are obtaining. I'll explain in detail when we talk about career path choices, on why it's a problem not actually choosing a specific path, and why is it a problem not sticking to one path long enough. So for now, let me just list the steps, and then we'll go into detail on some of these steps. Now, once you've got your career path that you want to pursue, then you can set your career goals, because the path will say, well, I'm gonna choose the design route, and in the design route, and for me, the corporate to climb the corporate ladder within the design route, I need to do A, B, C, D, and then you can start setting goals on when you can do this A, B, C, D. Now, once you've got the goal, then we can now define or develop a proper career plan. And then once you've got this career plan, then you're going to be in a better position with trying to find a job, because you're going to have a plan that is very specific. And when you present yourself in your CV and in interviews, you're very clear on where you are and where you're trying to go. And most of the time, some of the time, the reason why you're not even going past the CV stage is because you're not very clear. Like when I look at your CV, I can see that you're not clear on where you're trying to go. And a lot of employers, they want a person who's got clarity, because if you've got clarity, then they can invest in you, and when they invest in you, then they can benefit as a business. So when we talk about understanding the work-life transition, I'm going to talk in more details on what does it mean, like what do businesses do, and what are they looking for. Now, once you understand that, then you are in a better position to actually draft a CV that makes sense, present yourself in an interview in a way that is convincing, and actually securing that position and striving in that position. Now, step 5, you need to understand work-life realities. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Understanding what businesses are looking for, and how you need to be positioning yourself in your work life. Step 6, you need to learn how to get that promotion. So all in all, once you've chosen your path, you know your goals, you know your plan, you're able to you're able to position yourself to get that first job, and then you understand the working environment, the politics, and what have you, then learning how to get that promotion becomes much easier. So you can see this thing is very systematic. So if you skip any of the steps on top, and then you just what you call you're in your first year or second year of working, and you already want a promotion, but you've skipped everything above, you're going to have a very difficult time trying to convince like a recruiter or an employer to actually take you seriously with what you want, that promotion or that pay increase, whatever the case may be. So you're going to find it very, very difficult if you don't follow these steps systematically. Now, the bonus step or the bonus section that you need to understand is learning how to obtain various certifications. Now, that part of learning how to obtain various certifications, it's part of it, half of it is administrative. So the administrative part of it, I don't think, like, we should spend too much time on that. The important thing with certifications is understanding the requirements and then positioning yourself in your career to meet those requirements, so that one day you can successfully apply and obtain the certification that is relevant to your career path. Okay. Now, for the sake of time, today we're going to focus on step 1, 2, and 3. All right. Now, once you understand step 1, 2, and 3, then step 4 to 6 becomes much easier. So I want to focus today's session on step 1 to 3, and mainly because that's the target audience for today. Because for today, you're trying to get clarity. You're trying to understand, where is my career going, or where should my career go? And that's what I want to help you with today. And then for the other, for step 4 to step 6, then we will talk about how we can help you actually unpack step 4 to step 6, as well as the bonus step, which is understanding the different certifications and how to actually obtain those certifications. Now, let's go into step number 1, career paths. Now, before we start, let us be very clear, who are we talking about here? So I'm talking about engineers with specific disciplines. So the disciplines that we're going to focus on here is mechanical engineering. We're going to focus on electrical engineering, civil engineers, chemical engineering, mining engineering, and industrial engineering. So those are the engineering disciplines that this program that we have today is focusing on, or it's tailored for. But this does not exclude other engineering like aeronautics, biochemical engineering, whatever. It does not exclude them, but they will just have to like modify some of the things that we're going to be talking about. All right. So this is the target engineers that we're talking about. So if you are out of this, I'm not saying log off. I'm saying stick around, but you're just going to have to modify whatever we're going to be talking about. Now, ladies and gents, career paths are important, because if you're not choosing a career path, then I promise you're going to be all over the place. You're going to be in a situation where you are in maintenance, but you are busy trying to get your PRCPM, right? So if you don't know what PRCPM is that professional construction project manager. So you will find yourself in a situation where you are busy you're working in maintenance and operation and focusing on the wrong certifications. You will be busy in the design. You're working in design, but as you're working in design, you're busy trying to get your GCC factories, and you will see why that becomes problematic. So, as the engineering disciplines that I've actually listed, so here are your paths. And at the end of this session, you need to choose one and stick to it, because once you've chosen one and you've written down, I hope you've got a notepad that you're writing down. So once you've chosen a path, then all the upcoming slides that I'm going to be discussing, then you will start then resuming in your chosen career path. So you've got your mechanical engineering, electrical engineering degree, whatever the case may be. Your first option is going the design and consulting route. All right. So in the design and consulting route, this is where now the skills that matter becomes different from the other paths. So the skills here are more like drafting, being able to produce a drawing, read a drawing, do calculations, use analysis softwares, for the different components that you might be specializing in. The other path is maintenance and operation. Now, in maintenance and operation, it's a different environment altogether. Yes, you may or you might do a bit of design work in maintenance and operation, but the design work is not as much as you would do if you chose a pure design and consulting path. All right. The next path is construction. Now, construction is now, if you're working for a company that does the actual installation and project management of new capital projects, right? So when you're in design and consulting, you could be working with capital projects in combination with guys in maintenance and operation and construction. All right. And when you're in design, you can also be working on operational projects, which are done mostly by the maintenance and operation path. All right. So the design and consulting route actually gives you a very broad exposure, even though you will focus on the designing elements, but it gives you exposure to maintenance and operation and construction, because as a designer you might be assisting those two components. Then there's my favorite, which is freelancing. And the funny thing about freelancing is that there's some engineers who are sitting at home and saying that they can't get a job. And if you go to platforms like Upworks, Fiverr, freelancer.com, all those platforms, if you go to those platforms, you find engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers from other countries actually providing services on that platform. And you'll see when we start talking about skills, and when you talk about skills and freelancing, you will see that as a graduate, you actually do have the skills to actually do freelancing. But because of the lack of confidence, then you feel like, nah, I can't do this freelancing thing. Right. So from freelancing, so remember, freelancing would predominantly be like from a design and consulting sort of role, because a lot of freelancing jobs are design jobs. Okay. Now, the natural progression from freelancing is entrepreneurship. So now entrepreneurship is an animal on its own, and we're not going to talk a lot about entrepreneurship today, but entrepreneurship is an animal on its own. And if you choose that route, again, you can go into entrepreneurship, moving from either design, maintenance, construction, freelancing, and then move into entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship basically is starting your own business within the engineering space. So entrepreneurship is it's a monster on its own. And yeah, so if you're gonna choose that one, then you gotta have to get other types of skills apart from your technical skills that you are used to. Then the last one is basically branching out of engineering. So either going to banking or I don't know, like go to government and become an administrator in government. So whatever the case may be. So these are the choices that you have right now, and you need to make that choice very quickly. Write down which choice you're making. But if you feel like, okay, I'm not sure yet which choice I want to make, it's okay right now. And then as we progress, then maybe you will what to call it, as we unpack these different parts, then you will start feeling more confident to say, okay, maybe I'm comfortable with freelancing, or I'm comfortable with designing and consulting. All right. So we will talk in more details about these career paths. But the point that I want to make here, for the guys who are watching this and you are currently unemployed, and you've got your graduate degree, there's nothing stopping you from doing like a freelancing sort of role, because during your undergrad, you learned how to use design software, like if you're mechanical, design software like SolidWorks, and chances are you still have access to the student edition, so you can do some freelancing work where you can help people develop models on SolidWorks. If you are electrical, I'm sure there's other softwares that are electrical, like your AutoCAD, where you do your single line diagrams and what have you. You know how to use that software. So there's really nothing stopping you from actually going to these freelancing platforms and starting to actually say, listen, if you want someone to do single line diagrams or drawings for you, then talk to me and then I'll do it. Because the key thing about freelancing is skills, and we'll talk about what skills means in upcoming slides. Now, once you've chosen the career path that you want, right, there's a generic progression that you can go through for each of those paths, right? And this progression has to do with what happens in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, up to year 20, year 50, until you retire, right? So there is that path, right? So this generic path that I'm going to present now is specifically for year 1 up to around year 6, year 7, all right? So this is what's going to happen in your career. So you're going to have year 1 where you graduated and you're looking for that entry level position. And then your focus now is trying to secure that first entry level position. And now there's it's very difficult trying to apply for a graduate position because you don't really have experience. So when they hire you as a graduate, they're not hiring you based on your experience. Or when you enter any like engineering training program, it's not because of your experience, but it's because of some of first is your qualification. And what makes you stand out is like softer things, like if you were involved in other student bodies during varsity, and then you were president of the, I don't know, the vets engineering society, something like that, right? So once you've got like something like as small as that, then it's relatively easier to stand out compared to someone who during his undergrad, you just focused on your qualification, and you never did any extra mural activities. You were not involved in any projects or whatever. So this is now, if you are listening to this now, then it's sort of a bit too late to try to get all the other skills that will make you stand out. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that securing the entry level position, it's not about your experience. It's more about other things that you might have, like your involvement in other like engineering societies or community projects, whatever. But you need that one thing that sort of makes you stand out. And yeah, so to figure out what is that one thing, I'll give you ideas as we progress. Okay, now year 2, say you get your EIT program, you get into an EIT program or entry level position. And in year 2, it's all about trying to survive that first year, right? And during that survival stage, you're still trying to understand, like, or trying to find your passion and trying to find your purpose and trying to decide on your career path, right? So, what becomes problematic if you skip that step of defining your career path, right? Then you will be applying for like all positions and then you get that one position. Let's say your real passion is design and consulting. Now, because you are desperate or you did not define your career path as step one, then you get, for example, a maintenance and operation entry level position. I promise you, you're gonna get into that position because you in that position, and you're gonna be very frustrated because during that process where you trying to find your passion and your purpose and trying to figure yourself out, then you realize that actually this maintenance and operation is not for me, right? And then that becomes a problem because you find that you realize that in year 2 or year 4, and when you try to move into design, you don't have the experience, and now you have to start from scratch where you are looking for junior or entry level positions in design. So you need to be very very intentional in deciding or picking that career path because it's gonna affect you down the line. Now, year 3 comes, you've gained some experience, gain some skills, and you are well on your way, on getting that promotion or moving to the next level. But you will be well on your way if you listen to the tips that I'm going to give you today. So if you don't do that career path choice, you don't set proper goals, you don't set a proper plan, then that promotion will be way further than expected, because you'll end up being an EIT for 4 or 5 years, and you'll be frustrated and resentful of the engineering career and end up thinking about branching out or changing your path or whatever the case may be. Right. So year 4, ideally, you should have gotten your promotion. So if you're listening to this, you are in your 3rd or 4th year of working, and you're still in EIT, then there's something that you're not doing right. Okay. So it could be a combination of being your fault entirely or not being your fault. Right. So it can be your fault because you didn't choose your paths, you didn't do your career goals, you didn't do your career plans, you didn't get the right certifications. So, for instance, if you're in the design space, the way to progress in the design space is getting your PR eng. So if you are sitting at year 3 and actually even on year 1, you haven't even registered to be a candidate engineer. You're on year 3, you haven't even started compiling your reports and getting ready for submission. You haven't secured that project that can actually make you eligible to register as a PR eng, then you're screwed. All right. So that's why it's very important to to be very like specific from day one. And if you're not specific from day one, you're just gonna be busy chasing your tail all the time. Now, on year 5 roundabout, between year 4, year 5, you're gonna be in a position where you should be eligible to apply for different certifications that are relevant for your career path. All right. So we'll talk about what certifications are relevant for the different career paths. But for now, for example, PRNG, GCC, CEM, etc. So for the different career paths, you're gonna have to have specific certifications for you to move up the ladder from the engineer to senior engineer. All right. So around year 5, year 6, then you should have secured the relevant certification. You should have. If you haven't, again, it's a cascading effect of not focusing on step 1. All right. So year 6, you should theoretically be at a senior level looking at positions as a senior engineer or senior maintenance engineer, whatever the case may be. So remember what I said as I'm busy discussing this, that the big problem is if you do not select the path that you want to take early and you end up changing your path, you're going to keep starting from scratch. So I'll make an example with me. When I started in in a design office. Now, when you start in a design office and then you're like, I want to move to operation. When you move to maintenance and operation, because you don't have that experience in maintenance and operation, then you find yourself in a situation where you need to apply for a much junior position in maintenance and operation. And when you get into that position, you go in there with like 3-4 years of working experience, and you are competing with guys with 1 year, 2 years experience, and then becomes a very tricky situation. So whereas if you choose early, stick to it, then you're gonna progress nicely the way I've presented it here. Okay, so if you're not progressing like this, chances are you're busy. Changing your career paths, and you keep changing your career paths, then you will be screwed very soon, and you will be on year 6 and feeling confused and resentful. Now, once you know your career path, then you can define your career goal. And that's the next thing that we're going to be talking about. So, know your career path. And I think I've made plenty of examples why having or choosing a career path is important. If you don't understand how important that is right now, then you need to, when this session ends, you need to rewind and watch that discussion again, because it's very, very, very important. So at this point, before we move on to discussing the career goal, I know that what I've done is that I've spoken about choosing or the different career paths at a very high level, right? So for the sake of time, I can't go into details for each one of them, but we will have a online course where I go into detail on each and every path and what exactly you need to do. So I'll share the details later on that online course where you can actually go deeper into, okay, which career path will actually work for you. So in the different career paths, on the online course for the different career paths, we talk in detail on what sort of person you need to be to actually enjoy design or maintenance or construction or whatever, right? So at this point, I can take any questions. Are there any questions? If you've got a question, put it on the comments. Are there any questions? Oh, thanks, Dumi. Okay, I see Dumi has selected her career path. So you want to be maintenance management and or project management. All right. So if you're saying maintenance management and or project management, we'll talk about that. So because once you are in the maintenance and operation, there is an element of project management, especially when you're executing some of the activities. So we'll talk about that. Are there any questions, guys, so far? Thanks, Pilani, for your comment. Can we share the presentation? Well, we are sharing the presentation as it is, so it will be available. So you can, as you're watching, that's the presentation, I guess. All right. Okay. If there are no questions, think about what I've discussed so far. Just think about it. Go get some coffee. Go get some water, because we are literally 1 hour into the session. So when I do my facilitation, I do like giving people breaks so that you can just, reflect. Now, at this point, let's take a 10-minute break. Leg stretch, get some coffee, get some water, get a snack, and then let's talk about career goals. So right now the time is 09:57. So let's be back at 09:55. So we'll be back at 09:55, and yeah, we'll take it from there. All right, guys. I hope you had a good session and reflecting and thinking about what we've covered so far. And I'm hoping that so far you getting clarity and maybe the pieces of the puzzle are slowly, getting together. Now, let's talk about step 2, which is now your career goals. Right, guys, let's face it. Why are we getting these degrees and getting these what you call trying to go into these careers and getting these promotions and all of this stuff? Yes, I speak about passion and finding your purpose and what have you, but the reality is that your career is not a charity, and at the end of the day you're doing it for money. All right, and that's the what you call the brutal truth, right? It's not a charity. You're doing it for money and trying to get the skills and what have you. It is at the end of the day a journey to try to get more money, and the reasons why you want to get more money, we'll get into those reasons later. So your career is not a charity, right? So you need to focus when you are in one position for too long and you're not advancing, and and you're not getting you're not building your wealth and all of that stuff, then you are stuck. And when you feel stuck, you'll feel resentful, and once you feel resentful, you feel destitute, and then from there it's gonna be a downward spiral of just negativity all the way. You are doing this for the money. You do want to build wealth for yourself and your family. These are the realities. You want to live a good life. That's the reality, right? So when it comes to setting your career goals, you'll find that in most case, not in most cases, the reason why you're setting the goals is because you want to earn a salary and more money. And the reason why you want to earn more money is because you want to make sure that you provide for yourself and for your family, right? So you are able to provide the basic things like food and water and shelter, right? So that's the reality. And once you've provided all those food and water, you want to also provide for your families and yourselves security, right? You want to have employment certainty, happiness, right? You want to go to the gym and exercise and be able to afford to pay gym fees and what have you. So this thing is not a charity. So whenever you're setting a career goal, it needs to go hand in hand with your personal goal or your life goal, right? And when you set your life goal, then it usually starts at that first level, because remember, this is the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So it starts with, just at first, when you're a graduate, you just want to be able to buy your own McDonald's. That's it. You want to be able to buy your own nice sneakers and what have you. Then from there you want to buy your own house and You want to have security that, when I wake up tomorrow, I'll have a job. You want to get that money, then you can spend time, with friends and family, be able to, when you're spending time with them, to provide the food and the drinks, and have a good life, right? Then when you get to, so number 1 to 3, it's your early stages of your career. When you are around your 6 years plus, or even 8 or 10 years plus, then it starts being about, the status and, position and promotions. I'm now a senior engineer. I'm a principal engineer, and then from there, once like you are like 15 years, 20 years plus, then the goals become different. It's more about, the desire to be the best that you can be, right? So ideally, that's what's gonna happen when you are looking at your life goals in general. All right. And the thing about your life goals is that they will change over time, and that's why I'm talking about the different stages in your career, and how these life personal goals can change. But the important thing is that you want to um, tie your personal goals with your career goals. So when you're doing your family planning, or you're doing, your wealth building planning or whatever, you need to align it, because your career goal is going to be a function of the position that you are in and the salary that you're earning and so forth, right? Now, let's look at career goals. So, what will be the different career goals for the different career paths? All right. So, we're going to go into those details now. Now, if you are in design and consulting, right? So, you'll start off as an EIT, move on to be an engineer, move on to a senior engineer, be a principal engineer, and maybe one day be a divisional head, and maybe one day be an executive, and maybe one day move into what you call freelancing, entrepreneurship, or just branch out, whatever the case may be. The point here is at that first level, which is now EIT level, right? The the career goal at EIT level is very, very simple, right? So is to just get that entry level position, and once you've got that position, then then you can start looking at, okay, now I need to be an engineer. Now, what would be your career goal when you move when between the stages of EIT and engineer? Well, to set that goal, you need to understand what are the requirements for that engineer in the future, right? So you'll find that some companies will link the engineer position to experience and some qualifications, right? So you find they say, okay, for us to consider you to be an engineer. This is very common in like design and consulting, where if you're saying no, you want to be now engineer, then you need to have your PR eng. Okay, so you must have your PR eng, and you must have at least 3 years or 4 years experience or 5 years experience, whatever the case may be. So now the goal in itself is what I've laid down there to say your goal, if you're going to be in design, your goal would be to progress for EIT engineer, senior engineer, principal. As you once you've defined that these are the progression, now we need to now define what are the requirements when you are in like for example, jumping from EIT to engineer. So I've given you two so far. Get your PR range, get your get the experience that is required to operate at that level, get the skills that are required to operate at that level, right? So once you understand that, then when we go to the next step, where we're talking about developing a career plan, then we're going to go into the specifics on, okay, what exactly do you need to be doing in order for you to prepare yourself for the engineer position if you're already at EIT level. Now, the other thing about design is within design and consulting. Let's say you're a mechanical engineer, all right? With mechanical engineers, if you're going to go into design, there's actually even more branches that form, right? So, for example, I'm a boiler engineer, right? So I do consulting and design on high pressure piping and boilers, all right? So that for me then to move to something like I don't know, let's say a HVAC for buildings, then it's another learning curve. So when you are deciding your career path, you also need to think about the specialization within that career path. So I make this that's one example. For example, in design and consulting, right? Try to choose one path and stick to that specialization, because again, if you keep switching specializations, you keep starting a new learning curve, and if you're starting a new learning curve, then you literally have to sort of go back in terms of years of experience in understanding and doing that type of work. All right, so one of the problems is, especially when you're moving now EIT to engineer, if let's say you're gonna progress there within your current company or employer, then it's a bit easy, because then you already have a path sort of to say, okay, you are getting that experience that is relevant to your employer. But it gets tricky when you're saying, okay, from EIT, there's no position in this current employer, or they're taking time, I want to move out. When you move out, then you need to think about the specialization that you want to focus on. Having a specialization, guys, is very important, because again, when you write your CV, it makes your CV like very clear. Like, I can see that this guy is, he's been doing high pressure piping, he's been doing boilers. That's his thing, right? So if he wants to move to a position at a much senior level doing that, then he's got the experience, he's got the skills to actually succeed at that level. Now, here's the problem: you get guys who now have been working 3 to 5 years in boilers, and then all of a sudden they want to move to wet services, building services, right? Where now they're like HVAC design engineers, what small what you call water services, designing the water services and so forth. When they try to do that, number one, during that trying to get that job, you will struggle to secure the interview, because they see that, okay, but you don't really have that experience that we're looking for. Then if you do get the interview, it becomes then difficult to convince them that, okay, well, you can actually deliver on this in a timely manner that is expected of a person of your years of working. Now, once you get that job, then the next problem is you're gonna have that steep learning curve in trying to understand this new specialization. So the point that I'm making here is, if you're going to choose design consulting, choose a specialty as well. If you choose more than one specialty, nothing wrong with that, but just be good at all those specialties that you're going to choose. And then when you start moving to the next level, then you know that you can present your CV in such a way that you're saying, I'm a specialist in this and this and this. All right. So let's look at maintenance and operation. Now, with maintenance and operation, again, you'll sort of start at EIT level. But now with maintenance and operation, again, it becomes important, like the industry that you're going to be in. So maintenance operation, you could be in the FMCG, the fast moving consumer goods industry. Examples of employers will be like Unilever, Tiger Brands, whatever. You could be in the utilities industry. So for example, your Escoms and your Rand Waters, or you could be like in chemicals, for example, Sasol and so forth. So within the maintenance and operation as well, once you've gotten into a specific industry, I would advise that you stick to that industry long enough to climb the ladder and to actually get the right experience and qualification. So here's the career progression, or a career progression for a maintenance and operation person. So you start as an EIT. Then the next thing that you need to be working on is getting that GMR 2.7 appointment. Now, a GMR 2.7 appointment, if you are in the factory space, a GMR 2.7 appointment reports to the GMR 2.1. So what is GMR 2.7? What is GMR 2.1? Well, these are legal appointments. So if you are in maintenance, the best thing that you can do for yourself is try to go that route of getting the the legal appointments. All right. So GMR is the General Machinery Regulation, and if you want to learn more about what the General Machinery Regulation is, what GCC factories is, you can visit our website www.palucraft-gccstudy.com. I think for the purpose of today, just know that if you're in maintenance and operation, then this is the route that you might ideally want to choose. Now, that's factories. Then there's mines, right? So you could be doing maintenance and operation, what you call in a factory environment, and then in factories, as I said, you've got FMCG, utilities, chemicals, blah blah blah. Then you've got mines. So in mines, you can also be a 213-1 assistant, right? So a 213-1 assistant. The 213-1 is a section engineer appointed in mines to supervise machinery, and the GMR 2.1 is appointed in factories to supervise machinery. So they also both positions is like you're the section engineer for that specific factory. Now, that now becomes important to say, okay, now your career goal is to one day be the legal appointment. So for factories will be GMR 2.1, and then for mines will be a 213-1 appointment. Now, when you set now your goal, you need to then understand what are the requirements for these roles. And then once you know the requirements for these roles, then you can set up a career plan that will help you meet these roles. Okay. Right. So once you've been a GMR 2.1, there are GMR 2.1s who stick there for years and years and years and get nice bonuses, nice increases, and so forth. And then others, what they will do is they will change employers, but still sticking to 2.1, because it's a very challenging position, and you can literally stay in that position for years and years without feeling like it's getting boring or whatever. Now, the next level that you could go after GMR 2.1, and I'm talking now at the maintenance and operation. Obviously, once you're 2.1, you can go into consulting, you can branch out into freelancing, to entrepreneurship, whatever. But let's stick to saying, this is my path, this is what I'm going to stick to. Now, the next level from 2.1 will be to be the station manager. The reason now I say station manager, you'll see that in a lot of big factories, you'll have different 2.1s for GMR 2.1s for different plants or sections of the plant. So for example, if you look at Sasol, I think they've got tens, or they've got a lot of GMR 2.1s. So they'll have a GMR 2.1 for the boiler plant, a GMR 2.1 for the gas production, a GMR 2.1 for ash handling, and so forth. Now, all these GMR 2.1s will then report to someone, right? So this someone will be like I don't remember now I don't know what the structure is like now, but they will report, for example, to a senior manager. And then because Sasol is huge, then there will be a bunch of senior managers who report now to like the state, let's call it station manager. So the station manager now is responsible for the entire facility, right? So your progression, if you want to climb up, right, will be to say, okay, I'm a GMR 2.1, then the next level is going to be being a station manager. But guys, because the target audience for today is you are still in your first to 3 years of working. So your focus now is moving what you call the EIT, and then moving into your GMR 2.7 role. All right. Now, there is in maintenance and operation, and especially for big, facilities or big companies. So I'm going to make an example with Sasol again. So within Sasol, you find a situation where you can be an engineer that is supporting maintenance, and then you end up being following a route of like being a reliability engineer, or being a a specialist on rotating equipment, but you still in the maintenance and operation. It's just that you supporting maintenance, and your focus is not on being a legal appointment. That's also fine. So it's also a route that you can take. And then when you take that route, then you will find that the structure then becomes slightly different. So you would then move, you'll be an EIT engineer, move to senior engineer, principal engineer, and then maybe one day divisional head for that engineering support function to the maintenance, right? So even ESCOM has a similar structure, and then it's only the smaller factories where there's no, where you as the legal appointment are actually, you don't actually have an engineering support that is feeding into your maintenance team, right? So there's a lot of, again, branches that happen in maintenance and operation that you need to think about. But the point here is identify, make a decision that I want to be in maintenance and operation. 1, 2, choose which path do you want within maintenance and operation. So if you want to go to be a legal appointment one day, then this is the path that I'm presenting. If you want to be a maintenance specialist, reliability specialist, or a rotating equipment specialist, there's still that possibility. It's just that you're not going to go become a legal appointment, but you're going to be more of a specialist in like the maintenance and a bit of design of those different components or equipment that you're a specialist on. Now, after station manager, if you really have the temperament, you can go executive level. And then from executive level, I'm talking like now reporting to where you're at corporate level, or you CEO, or whatever the case may be. But that's what the path will look like. So you see that so far, for both engineer and maintenance and operation, you start off sort of as an engineer, and then as you get more experience, then the natural progression is to move into management, right? But for you, if you are deciding right now that, you know what, one day I want to move into management, then what you do during your progression is you need to make sure that you are already thinking about the skills, and you are playing the politics, and you're playing you're understanding all the politics within your organization, on what you need to do in order to be there at station manager level, right? And to have that mentality, you need to actually think about it now. You need to make the decision now, because if you don't make the decision now during your early days, then you're just gonna be like, being chasing your tail, and being all over the place, and not being sure whether you're coming or going. Now, guys, the reason why I'm showing you these different paths and what will happen in the different paths is because if, for instance, I've already said that in design and consulting, the important certification is PR-Eng. Okay. Now, you are in design and consulting, working for 5 years, you got your PR-Eng. Now, once you've got your PR-Eng, then you're like, oh, okay, now I want to, I want to move into maintenance and operation. Now you're competing with guys who have their GCC. All right. So now you're seeing that, okay, you're going to I keep emphasizing this thing of starting a new learning curve. You understand? So if you're gonna keep starting a new learning curve, then you wanna take more time progressing up the ladder. So it's good that you stick to one thing. And if you are in design and consulting, don't waste your time getting GCC factories because it's not required for you to have GCC factories when you are specializing. You are pursuing to be a design specialist. You don't need GCC factories. And when you are in maintenance and operation and you are focusing on maintenance and operation, you don't need PR-Eng, right? Because you're not gonna your job function is not to do designs and approve designs and what have you. The general machinery regulation gives you the authority, once you've got your GCC factories, gives you the authority to say, yes, we can implement this in my factory, right? But you don't necessarily do the actual design work. You're still gonna give that to a PR-Eng person to do that work. All right. So, and then it comes again to construction, right? Now, in construction, you move from EIT. Then your next natural progression will be to try to get to be a CR 8.2 appointment. So a CR 8.2, this is construction regulation 8.2 appointment. So an 8.2 appointment is an assistant to the construction manager. All right. So you want to move from EIT, work your way to being an assistant to the construction manager, and then one day move into a construction manager. And then once you've been a construction manager, then you can move to a 16.2 appointment, which is now a project manager. So you find that you now have different construction sites and all the construction managers are reporting to you as the project manager. And then maybe one day become an executive where now all the project managers are reporting to you, and then you progress from there. Now, the thing about construction industry is that a lot of the corporate structure of a lot of construction companies is very flat. Now, because it's very flat, you can get to executive at a much shorter duration versus an operation and maintenance structure, because an operation and maintenance structure it's much broader, because there's a lot of layers before it gets you get to that executive or even CEO level. All right. So when you are in construction, don't waste your time doing GCC factories. What you need to focus on in construction is getting your PR CPM. Okay. So PR CPM is the professional, professional construction project manager. That's what you focus on, because that's what, if you chose construction and you're going to stick around construction, that's what you focus on, right? Design, PR-Eng in construction, yeah, maybe, right? There are situations where you, as you progress as an EIT in the construction, you might be doing designs, and it might be necessary that you do PR-Eng, But you find that if it's a pure construction company that outsources their design work, and then you've got a designer and so forth, and your job is to manage the construction projects and manage the execution, then don't waste your time and busy doing all these other certifications that are not relevant to your construction. All right. Now, if you are let's say you are in maintenance, right? So I did say that in maintenance there is an element of what you call project management. So what would you do then? Does it mean that you become a PRCPM? No. So what you do is either you go do a project management course, or you look at getting your PMP. That's it. Because if you get your PMP in maintenance, because you manage a lot of maintenance projects, then then getting a PMP is not really required. What's important is your skill of managing projects, but getting a PMP might maybe set you apart from your competition. All right. Same applies with design and consulting. Design and consulting, if you're a pure design engineer, look, it's okay if you want to get your PMP as preparation of your progression in your career, but not entirely necessary, because even in design you can focus on getting what you call doing a qualification or training in project management, and that should be enough for you to succeed in that role. Then in construction, getting your PMP might be a very good idea, because the PRCPM works mostly for the what you call it, it's something that like government likes mostly. So if you're doing a lot of government projects, then the big focus will be that. But if you're doing like private sector work, then the focus will be more on your PMP. So in construction, then you focus on being the best project manager that you can be. All right. So do you see how, if you don't have clarity of the career path that you want to go, what will end up happening is you will end up you'll end up having a PR Eng, a GCC, and a construction, and a PRCPM and a PMP, and then be in a role where you're only using one of those. So instead of wasting a lot of time doing all these certifications, you could just choose one and be a specialist in that thing, and in that role, in that route that you've chosen. And I promise you, experience trumps certification in most cases. If you're very experienced and you know what you're doing, then it trumps certification in a lot of situations. Okay, so if you're sitting here right now and you were thinking, hey, you know what, I work for ESCOM. As I'm working for ESCOM, I want to get my PR Eng, I want to get my GCC, I want to get my PRCPM, I want to get my CEM, I want to get my You're gonna spend a lot of time busy accumulating certifications and less time trying to get the solid experience. Okay, now the other one for maintenance and operation, being a certified energy manager. So CEM will work nicely for the design and consulting and for the maintenance and operation guys. And there's other certifications again on maintenance and operation, like being a a reliability engineer, going that route of reliability engineer, going the route of quality, being a quality, a professional quality certified person, being a welding engineer. So welding engineer, again, on construction becomes, especially if it's a construction company that does a lot of welding, then becomes important. Then even on the design side, actually on the maintenance and operation side, if you've got a huge facility that does a lot of welding work during your GOs and shutdowns, then being a welding engineer makes sense, right? So what's the conclusion so far, guys? Choose your path. Stick to path for long enough for you to be a specialist. For you, when they think about the best JMR2 in your company, they just think of you. When they think about the best boiler designer or piping design engineer, they think about you, right? That's how you will progress nicely in your career and avoid a lot of frustration. Now, you busy right now, say you are an EIT, sorry, not an EIT, you just graduated, you can't get a job in any of the three that I've discussed, in design, maintenance, or construction. What do you do? So instead of just sitting around, there's an opportunity for freelancing. And freelancing, you can do it again using the platforms that I've mentioned, or you can do it for these companies, these design, maintenance, and construction companies. So, for example, I'll make an example of the mechanical engineers, because I understand mechanical, because I've been in that route, right? In your undergrad as a mechanical engineer, you were making use of SolidWorks. SolidWorks is a software that is actually used in industry to model different components. Okay, so for the mere fact that you've been using SolidWorks from your third year, so third year, second year, you've been using SolidWorks, you've done all these different models. And I remember when I was an undergrad as well, we would do the SolidWorks model and then actually go buy the components and then build the thing, and then there it is. You've got it. You know how to do drafting, right? You know how to use this software. So there's nothing, even as a student right now, if you know how to use SolidWorks, you've got access to SolidWorks, you can already start freelancing and making some extra cash. Already you can start doing that. So nothing is stopping you. And the experience that you gain from this freelancing, you put it in your CV, right? And if freelancing, it's great if for guys who at the end of the day, they want to pursue the design and consulting route, because in the design and consulting route, it is about using the softwares that you're already using at school. Here's another interesting one in freelancing: technical writing. If you go to these freelancing platforms, you find that there's people who are looking for people who can write mechanical engineering content, electrical engineering content, chemical engineering content. You understand? Because if you have been doing this thing in your undergrad, you've got a better context of mechanical engineering. So if a person says, listen, can you write a piece of content for me for mechanical? How many, as a degreed person, how many reports have you written? From first year, you're just doing reports, right? So you've got experience in writing. So you can now take that experience in writing and go freelance with that experience. Okay. And even that experience, again, for South African companies who want to develop specifications or want someone to type out a specification for them, you can go and research a specification and draft it for them, right? And then after that, you charge them. You don't have to be their employee for you to start doing some of the work that you would ordinarily do once you get the appointment. Okay. Analysis. If you are in what you call in varsity, again, I make an example with SolidWorks. What's that other software for fluid dynamics? Okay, I'm forgetting the name. But is it StarCM Plus? Yeah, I think it's StarCM Plus. Right? You know how to do fluid dynamic modeling. You know how to do a stress analysis, FEA, on any component. So what's stopping you from doing a one-pager profile and then sending out to these design companies, maintenance companies, construction companies, and saying, listen, I'm a freelancer, I can do this thing for you? What's stopping you from going to these freelancing softwares, putting your profile there, and then start bidding for freelance work? Nothing's stopping you, right? So this is advice for guys who are currently sitting at home. You've got your degree and you can't, you're struggling to get a job. So instead of just sitting, this is something that you could be doing. You know how to do design work. You know how to size a pump. You know how to calculate wall thickness in a pipe. You know how to do all these things, right? And even if you don't know some of these things, you can now, like a pressure vessel, how to design a pressure vessel. You haven't designed a pressure vessel maybe that you've designed and actually fabricated, but you can go learn that thing, right? So now you'll know how to prepare a pack for a pressure vessel design. Once you know that, nothing is stopping you from doing freelance work. Nothing is stopping you. So anyone who's an engineer and doesn't have a job, here's something for free, because you just need, for the mere fact that you are watching this right now, so you do have data, you've got access to data, you've got access to either a smartphone or a computer, right? So if you've got access to that, nothing is stopping you with freelancing, right? So with freelancing, the natural way that I would advise you to do it is drafting, because drafting I won't say it's brainless, but it's the first easiest thing to do. Then, because even the software for drafting, it's relatively easy to get. So for example, you could be still a student and get access to an AutoCAD student license, right? So it's something that is easy to get access to. There's cheaper drafting softwares like TableCAD, for example, which costs under 2,000 rand, right? So if you're really serious, you can go do odd jobs, get 2,000 rand, get yourself TableCAD, right? Then the tricky one becomes the analysis softwares. So once you've done the drafting, then the next progression will be analysis. So this is now doing for example, using PV Elite to do your pressure vessel analysis, or using SolidWorks to do your stress analysis, your FEAs and what have you. Using what do you call your CFD software to analyze flows and so forth. You understand? So the analysis one becomes a bit tricky, but there are still student licenses if you're still a student. Then if you have passed a student, then there's ways that you can do it where, maybe you've got a brother who works for a design company who's got access to these design software, or like there's different ways. You just need to make a plan. Then when it comes to design, sizing, a lot of consulting work that I've done is with construction companies, because the thing with construction companies is they get into situations where there's some design, some engineering work or design work that they need to do for whatever they need to install. You find that they've got the project to replace steam piping, but now there needs to be rerouting, and there must be a reanalysis and design to develop data books, specifications, and so forth. So the design part, a lot of the design that I do is literally like developing spreadsheets to do sizing for different components, developing sheets for for data sheets, developing sheets for technical specifications for different components, your valves and whatever you. So when these construction guys say, hey, I'm looking for a technical specification for a 1,000 kPa gate valve, I've got the spec, right? And it's something that I can negotiate with them. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. So once you've mastered those three, then you might in future get hire an assistant. Now you are sort of going a little bit into this entrepreneurship journey, right? So now you hire an assistant who will submit quotations or prepare quotations and do that, so that you focus on the designing work. So freelancing is predominantly you being self-employed, basically. So you are literally doing everything, and yeah, so for different companies at different levels. And when you're a freelancer, you could literally do freelancing work for companies in design, maintenance, and construction, and again, bidding for work on online platforms. Now, the natural progression then from there, once you are successful in this freelancing, is to move into entrepreneurship. Now, I did say that entrepreneurship is a different monster. It's a different monster in its own. Now, with entrepreneurship, now you have to have the skills of starting up, right? You have to have the skills of starting up a business. And with a startup, there's a lot of research. And now you're no longer working in the business, but you are working on the business. So, whereas with freelancing, you're working in the business because you are self employed and you are doing the work. Whereas with entrepreneurship, your mentality now needs to change because now you're going to hire engineers to actually do some of this work. All right. So, the natural progression will be a startup where you proof of concept and all of these jargons for startups. So let's not go into detail. But once you've successfully passed your startup stage, which is anywhere between 0 to 3 or even 5 years of establishing your business, then survival could be an overlap between 3 and 8 years where you're making just enough money to pay the bills, pay your employees, and you're sort of okay. Then after that, there'll be the growth stage where you're now thriving and making a lot of money, employing more people, and so forth. And then from there, you need to then think about sustainability. So you can branch into banking, management. This is now management, like you go work for like a logistics company or whatever, which is just like, is no longer like pure engineering, right? Or work for government or whatever the case may be. Right. So, guys, I hope I explained the number one. What I've tried to explain here is your career paths. Number two is to try to explain the types of goals that you need to think about. So remember, with these goals, now you need to put, for them to be smart goals, then you need to start now saying, when are you gonna be an engineer? By when? Right? So you will say, okay, I want to get a promotion. So your first goal, get the job. Okay, cool. Roger that. The next goal, I want to be appointed as engineer by 30 June 2024. Okay, so that's the next goal, right? So that's the goal setting. So what I've presented here is basically a blueprint to say, listen, if you choose this what you call this route, these are the milestones that you need to think about. And again, I want to emphasize, for what I've presented here, there's other branches where you can what you call have other milestone. This is an example, high level, common, what you call a lot of mechanical, electrical guys can go through. And then if you are, for example, what you call chemical, industrial, under maintenance and operation, it's still possible to go through that route of legal appointments, because the what you call Department of Labor does allow for that. And then if you are in maintenance and operation in the mining space and you're a chemical engineer, metallurgical engineer, and so forth, again, there is a what you call you are allowed to pursue legal appointments. You just need to go through one or two loops, but the bottom line is this is the blueprint. And I'm not gonna talk about like the specifics on, okay, so what are the requirements for GCC factories? What are the requirements for PRH? What are the requirements for CEM? What are the requirements for PRCPM? I think I don't want to spend too much time on that for today's session. If you want information, for example, on GCC factories and mines, you can visit palucraft-gccstudy.com. If you want to learn about PRH, you can visit EXA on what their process is, what are the requirements. So all those admin stuff, let's not waste time with those. So let's focus on defining our what you call our actually selecting our path, defining our goals, and then the next step that we're going to be discussing is developing a plan for you to actually achieve these goals. Right. So at this point, I see that there's some questions, and then I'm just gonna, before I move on to the next one, I'll just, because I see that there are some questions, and let's look at that. Right, so there's a question here, facilities engineer, does it fall under maintenance and operation? Yeah, facilities engineers, yeah, it does fall under maintenance and operation. And the thing about facilities engineers, this is, if you're gonna choose that facility engineer, what you call path, remember that what becomes important for you as a facility engineer then becomes slightly different. So, for instance, you will maybe concentrate on getting your being a certified energy manager, because the thing about facilities engineers is you find that you are a facility engineer for a building, right? And that building has equipment that are exempted from the general machinery regulation. So if you are managing equipment like HVAC equipment for building is exempted from the general machinery regulation. So since it's exempted from the general machinery regulation, then there's no requirement for you to get to be appointed as a GMR 2.7 and 2.1. So if you're gonna be a facilities engineer, especially for like big buildings and what have you, then your focus is on improving the energy usage in that building and making sure that what you call your HVAC is always working. There's always a water supply. There's always hot water and what have you, right? So facilities engineers, again, it's one of those things where I'm saying that the route that you take might be a bit different. All right. I hope that answers your question. To start GMR 2.1. Okay, so the next question here. Okay, let me clarify this, right? So to start with GMR 2.1 is not advisable after after EIT or maintenance engineer. Okay, let me clarify something. GMR 2.1 is a legal appointment, right? So it's a actual position. What I normally advise is that when you decide that you want to go into maintenance and operation and one day you want to be a 2.1 appointment, so one of the requirements of a 2.1 appointment is that you need to especially if it's going to be a big facilities where the sum of the power generated in that facility is about 3,000 kilowatts, then you will need that GCC factories. Now when that's the case, all right, then you will need to get the right experience before you accept to be appointed as a 2.1. Because the problem is this: if you get your GCC factories and you rush into be appointed as a 2.1, you're going to be exposed once you are in that position. So it's good to be an assistant to a 2.1 so that you understand the nitty-gritties of the nitty-gritties of that legal appointment, on what exactly must you be doing in order for you not to be in the bad books with Department of Labor and the chief inspector, right? So I hope I answered your question. So the GMR 2.1 route, I wouldn't advise a person to like go from being an EIT, get your GCC factories, and then jump into a 2.1, unless during your EIT program you got the right experience, or during your EIT program you were actually working under the wing of a 2.1 and you saw and you know all the nitty-gritties that are required for that specific role. I hope that answers your question. All right, so this chemical engineers eligible for GMR positions, definitely eligible. We did my sister guy some couple of weeks back with this, and if you go to palocraft-gccstudy.com and you click on blog, then under blog you click GCC factories, then you will see there's an article that we did specifically for chemical engineers and what you need to do for you to eventually get the GMR 2.1 position as a chemical engineer. So the important thing is that you need to get your GCC factories, and what needs to happen is you need to submit your application, and then Department of Labor will advise. on which subjects that you need to do. So the chemical engineer GCC applications are taken on a case by case basis. So they look at your experience, they look at your qualifications and the subjects that your qualification covered. So let's not go into the admin. What you can do is you can visit www.palucraft-gccstudy.com and go to blog, and then under blog, GCC factories, and then just there's a search thingy on the blog. Just type chemical, and then it will take you to that specific guideline. All right, so money, 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 money. I did say, guys, that listen, you're not into this thing for charity, okay? And you do want to, choose a stream that will pay you well, where you will earn well. I think all of the streams they pay well. In all of the streams, it all depends on you. So if you don't have, if number one, you're not choosing a path. Number two, you're not setting your goals properly. Number three, you're not what you call, once you've set your goals, then you're not executing them according to your plan, then it doesn't matter which route you take, right? You can be a freelancer and make millions, and have like a package of 2 million per annum as a freelancer, right? And you can be a freelancer and just make 60,000 a year. It's all about how you push that freelancing game. And it also same applies. You can be a GMR 2.1 appointee in a very small factory, right? And then in a GMR 2.1 in a small factory, you find you earning anywhere between 500 to 800 per annum, right? But a GMR 2.1 in a large factory with a bigger risk, you find that you're earning anywhere from 1 million to 2 million per annum. You understand? So it all depends on you. So if you set the right goals for yourself, then you set the right plan for yourself, then you can get to a situation where you are a high earner in any of the path that you've chosen. So there's no answer to say design is the highest paying. No, design is highest paying if you play the game right. If you play the game right, my friend, you'll be earning a lot of money. Okay. Now, you see the position. Yes, I agree. So for the question now is, it's difficult to get maintenance manager position without without PRN or PR Tech. Okay. Now you need to be very careful here. Depends on which industry, and it depends on what role. A lot of the roles, maintenance manager, a pure maintenance manager role, yes, I agree with you. GCC, definitely. You need a GCC. That's the one thing that will set you apart and almost guarantee that you get that position. Now, the one that becomes tricky is, remember, after maintenance manager, you get engineering managers. Now, in some organizations, you find that the engineering manager is the 2.1 appointee one, and is responsible for the engineering design element, right? So because of that, then you find that other employers will say, no, 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 we want the person we want you to have a GCC and a PR eng. But here's the nice thing: once you've got your GCC, getting your PR, it shouldn't be that difficult, especially if in that maintenance and operation space that you're in, you apply yourself, you try to get design type of work so that you can be able to have a design report to submit to get that PR eng. Okay, so yes, in some employers want you to have GCC factories and PR under the maintenance and operation, but a lot of employers in maintenance and operation focus on GCC factories. So I hope that's answered. Yes, it's recorded. Masikole, it is recorded. It will be available. You can watch it 100 times after the session ends. But we will keep it available. So the session will be available we'll keep it for like a week or something, and then take your notes, absorb, and then you should be okay. Oh, yes. Yeah. For CFD software, there's ANSYS, and there's a lot of them. All right. So, when it comes to freelance work, I do freelance work sometimes. With freelance work, there's no such thing where there's certain companies that are what can I say? Sorry. With freelance work, there's no such a thing that these companies are looking for freelancers. Nope. How it works is you knock on doors. So you knock on doors, you identify companies, you see, oh, these companies are working on this project. You submit your one pager profile or your two pager profile, whatever the case may be, to say, listen, I do a HVAC design work. So if you guys, you're looking for someone to do some HVAC design work, here's my profile, and yeah, let me know. Then you will knock at a lot of doors until you get your gig. So there's no situation. All companies need freelancers. It's just that you need to go convince them that you've got the skills and you've got what they are looking for. So you just need to go out there. But that's a different animal on its own. So if you want to learn about freelancing, maybe we'll do a session on freelancing. Okay. All right. So look, the nice thing about consulting, there was one. I maybe I'll publish this blog post again. I once wrote a blog post about the different businesses or different businesses that you can start with your GCC factories, and one of the businesses is consulting, because once you have worked in the maintenance and operation space, you can easily move into design and consulting space, where you're consulting about matters of compliance to the maintenance and operation people, right? So yes, you can use your what you call your GCC factories in consulting. Obviously, now if you the factors would be: number one, getting a consulting company that does work that requires legal like compliance sort of consulting within the maintenance and operation, right? So, or you start your own company, and then now when you start your own company, then now we are going into that animal called entrepreneurship. So that's a story for another day. Now, if you want experience in anything, right? To gain experience in anything, you need to go do the work. That's it. So if you are what you are in a working environment where the the is in this situation, that is displayed now, is that the person who could potentially mentor you is in a different department, then move to that department. It's simple as that. If you're an artisan and you want to get more exposure in GMR2 experience, then you move to that department. It's as simple as that. If you can't move in that department, then you apply outside and try to find a job that will help you get that experience. I think it's as simple as that, So yeah, so if, as you're saying here, you must go watch the seminar we did 2 weeks back on artisans, on how to get that experience as an artisan. All right. I think there's no other questions. All right. So now, postgraduate studies. Look, the big thing, especially if you look at let's look at design. The big thing with design is to comply. Now, for you to comply, you need to have a PR eng. So, what I've presented here as a blueprint, especially for design, maintenance, and construction, is compliance, right? So, with compliance, you need certain documentation or certification, and that's why the emphasis is on that. Because qualifications, you can even get a PhD, right? If you are in maintenance and operation and you end up getting a PhD, I'm not sure how far that PhD will help you in climbing the ladder. So, for example, you can have a PhD, but you cannot, but you still can't qualify to be appointed as a GMR 2.1. So, discussing qualifications, you can get them to solidify some of the skills that you might not have. So, for example, I did mention that if you are in what you call in maintenance, you could consider doing a project management course, right? And maybe get a qualification in project management. But for me, I think like you need to understand that environment. For instance, in design and consulting, it might make sense to get a PR, what you call a PhD, where you are a specialist in a very niche part of design. You understand? So getting a PhD actually sets you apart. You see, so you need to think about, even when you're looking at qualifications, you need to think about what sort of qualifications can set you apart. So, for example, moving from let's look at maintenance and operation. Moving from GMR 2.1 to station manager, it might make sense for you to do a management development program, like get a what you call, I forgot these programs that vets and all of them do, you know. So it might make sense. And moving from station manager to executive, it might make sense to do a qualification like an MBA or an MBA or a executive program. But the clarity that I want to put here is this: like, you can't come now, you are an engineer in design and consulting, and you go and study an MBA and you spend 200,000 on that. And your ambition is to stick around the and climb the specialist route. You're wasting your time and money, right? So if your end goal is to be an executive, okay, and then gain that executive experience and then do that at least middle management experience, then do your MBA to prep you for executive. So we'll come to the in the next section where we talk about skills. Then you will see where qualification fits in the bigger picture. Right. I think I'm looking at the time now, 11:12. So we've been in this for an hour. I think we can let's take another 5 minute. Let's do a 5 minute break now. So we'll come back. So it's 11:13. Let's come back at 11:18. So let's take a 5 minute break, get some coffee, get some water, get a snack, think about what we've discussed so far, and yeah, then we'll continue in 5 minutes. So we'll be back at 11:18. So let's take a leg stretch and yeah, get some coffee, some tea, get a snack, and yeah, 5 minute break, guys, and we'll be back.
All right. All right, guys. Whew, I'm happy that you're still here. So we are gonna go through the last part of today's session, and I'm happy that what to call. Thanks, Marcy, for the comment there to say that you're actually benefiting. Like for me, I think the takeaway here is once we finish the session, like I want you to have like a better clarity of your career and where you're trying to take your career and how you can actually achieve that. Now, some of the questions that were asked are going to be answered in the upcoming slide. Because the upcoming slide actually breaks down this career goal. So I'm going to talk about the career plan, and it breaks down this career goal into manageable steps. Right. Now, we're making an example of a career goal, and we're going to unpack how to actually achieve these career goals through the proper planning and so forth, right? So let's make an example. Say your goal is to secure the next engineer position or promotion by June 2024. So in your notebook right now, what you're going to do is you need to write your goal down. You need to write it down and say, okay, my first goal is to achieve this. And you need to put a date to it, right? I think even on this example, we should have said by 30 June 2024. Be very specific, so that you can see that, okay, 30 June 2024, I would be called an engineer in this company, all right? If not this company, or secure it to in a different company or the competition, whatever the case may be, right? So, but the important thing is securing that promotion. Now, when you secure that promotion, I'm going to give you a very nice blueprint. Any position that you're employed for is because they are you get it, or you employ for it because there's a specific skill that you have that the employer is looking for and is willing to pay you for that skill. Okay. Now, you get hired because of the skill that you have. You don't get hired because of any other things, like well, maybe other things like politics or whatever play a role, but the important thing is the skill. Now, I said to you, I'm going to unpack what is a skill. And I think when I unpack what is a skill, then it will answer most of the questions surrounding qualification, certification, and experience. A skill, here's the formula for a skill. A skill is your experience plus your training, your qualification, and your certification, right? It's a combination of these four things, right? Now, your certification, qualification, and training can be reinforced by doing
that thing that you are trained for, or the qualification that you studied, or the certification that you've obtained, you can reinforce it using experience. Okay. Now, let me make an example of this formula of what does this formula mean. So in the position that you, for an engineer, for you to be what you call, be considered as an engineer, for example, they will say they want a PRN, which is a certification. All right. Now, with the certification that's called PRN, all that the PRN certificate is saying is that the Engineering Council of South Africa is satisfied that you have the minimum skill level that is required or expected of an engineer. Now, if you look at how the Engineering Council evaluates or goes on and certifies you that, okay, you have the skill required, they first look at your qualification. What is a qualification? A qualification, again, is a document that is certifying to say, listen, this person has underwent through these modules, and after going through these modules, we've evaluated this person. And once we've evaluated this person, we are satisfied that he or she has the minimum required skills to function under this qualification. I make an example. You are a chemical engineer. Your chemical engineering qualification, all that it's saying is that we, as the University of the Witwatersrand, are satisfied that we have imparted all the knowledge, and this person has demonstrated through our the exams and the assignments and the tutorials and all these things that he or she has this skill that will make him or her function as a chemical engineer. All right. So back to EXA. So EXA looks at your qualification, then they look at your training. So you'll see that when you're looking at EXA, there's this emphasis on CPD and have you been doing any training? What is training? Training, again, is just a certificate, right? An attendance certificate that says this person, he or she at least came to get more knowledge on this specific field that we are doing as a training. And because of his or her attendance, we are satisfied that he has gained certain skills that are covered under this training. What does it mean? Let me unpack that further. Let's say you go do a hazard identification and risk assessment training. After that training, you should theoretically have the skill to identify hazards. You should have the skill to do a risk assessment. Now, once you have done this training, you go to your workplace and you apply your training, and that's experience. So that's why I'm saying training, qualification, and certification can be reinforced through experience. Now, when an employer says, now let's look at this engineer position, they're saying now we've covered the issue of PRN, right? So one of the requirements is PRN, and PRN is basically a shortcutted way of saying, listen, this person has the qualification, the training, and experience that is expected of an engineer at this, of a person to operate as an engineer at this level. That's what PRN says. Okay. Now, what else is the requirement for that position? So PRN is not enough, right? So they will say if it's a position where you are doing what you call you doing, I'll make an example, HVAC design. Okay. Now, they say the skill that they want from you is the ability to use AutoCAD MEP to build HVAC models and analyze HVAC models. So that's the skill. Now, how do you demonstrate to an employer that you have that skill? You can demonstrate to the employer that you have that skill by using one or more of the 4 things in that formula. All right. You can demonstrate it by saying, look, I have done 5 HVAC designs in the past 2 years, and I've designed them. They bought the equipment, installed them, commissioned, and they worked. I've got the experience, hence I've got the skill. What's another way of doing it? You go do a training in AutoCAD MEP, and once you've got that training, that's why in your CV, what are you writing on your CV? The training that you have done. Okay. How else can you do this to demonstrate your skill? You can go get a qualification. You can go do a certificate program or a national a certificate in drafting or in design, and then you get a qualification. And that qualification, again, all it's saying is that, listen, you've got now the skill based on the qualification. Yes, agreed. You still need to go and reinforce what you've learned in the qualification through experience. And then another way to demonstrate your skill is through certification. Now, let's talk this thing of experience. The biggest problem or the biggest challenge with many, what can I say, like junior guys or graduates, is that you lack a lot of confidence in applying what you know. Let me make an example. During your undergrad, you have done, let's say you come and they say size a pump for this application. During your undergrad, you've been taken through fluid mechanics. In fluid mechanics, you've done calculations for pumps and what have you. But when you get to work, they say size a pump. Then you say you want a mentor, you want a supervisor, you want somebody to to guide you in sizing a pump. That's where the problem starts when it comes to this experience thing. And let me tell you why that becomes a problem. It becomes a problem because now you close your mind to the point where the only way that you think you can gain experience is if you work under somebody and somebody shows you how to do this thing. And then when that happens, it closes the doors to things like freelancing, because the minute you say, I want to do the freelancing, but I don't have the experience in HVAC. But what experience do you want? Ankere, you've done the qualification, they showed you how to do this thing. Now, to gain the experience, you must go get the work for HVAC and do it. That's how you gain experience. So here's where the problem again with this mentality comes. Now, you get a situation where I'm saying to you, you can go and size an HVAC for your home and buy maybe for your parents or whatever. You size the air conditioning there. Okay, you do the calculations, everything, and then they buy the HVAC, they install it, and then you test does your calculation said that if you install a HVAC unit of this size, then this room will be cooled to for example 20 degrees Celsius within X amount of time if the temperature in the room was 30 degrees Celsius. Okay, now this is your house. Now you go, they install, you take measurements, you take temperature measurements, and then at the end you install this thing and it works according to your calculation. Do you know that's experience? Do you know that you can put that experience in your what you call in your CV, and you don't even have an employer? So why is this important? This is important, especially design. If you're looking at design route, even if you're looking also like the maintenance, even in the construction, is that you can gain experience with things that you've got access to. You can gain experience with like for example volunteering for community projects. You understand? You can gain experience by doing a mock project. You know, when I wanted to be a boiler engineer, I already was working as a design engineer for bulk water distribution systems. I've done that for what 2 years, 3 years, and now I want to be a boiler engineer, but I don't have the experience in designing boilers. So what did I do? I did a mock project. So what is a mock project? A mock project, I say, okay, here's this facility. It has this sort of boiler installed. Can I do a boiler knowing the inputs and outputs of this facility? Can I then do a boiler design that after I've done this boiler design and then I go compare it with the data sheet of the boiler that's already installed, would what I design and specify look the same as that, knowing the inputs? And then I went and I did that. Then after doing that, and then I I compared, did a whole report, and then after that I put that in my CV as my experience in boiler design. And you don't lie in your CV. You just say, listen, this is a mock project that I've initiated. And then this mock project, I did a boiler design, and this boiler design at the end, I completed the design, and my design matched what was in what was on the plant. That is experience. Did I need an employer? No. You just needed an access to that facility to know what the inputs and outputs are, and then you go sit down and you do the design. Simple. So that's why this mentality of saying that no, I can only gain an experience if I'm working for somebody, and when I'm working there earning a salary, therefore that's the experience that counts, therefore that's the experience that goes on my CV. Nope, that's not the case. You put your experience. If you go assist, if you are a chemical engineer, you go assist what you call a rural village in designing like a process plant for managing their sewage or whatever. It's experience. You are not paid for it, but it's experience. Now, the next thing, when it comes, now we're talking about this. We're gonna talk about this planning in detail shortly. Now, the next thing is this: you need to focus on skills, because you need to focus on saying, do I have the skill for that position? So, what does this now mean? It means, worry, if I want that position as an engineer, what skills do I need? Of the skills that I need, can I gain or do I have these skills in the form of experience? Can I gain or do I have these skills in form of training, qualification, or certification? Guys, the formula that you are seeing there, that's how you need to write. You need to structure, not write. You need to structure your CV. Firstly, you don't write a CV that is generic. You write a CV that is specific. But let me pause on that. We'll talk about it when we get to CVs. All right. Now, as you are sitting on your desk, or whether you're at home or wherever, and I'm sure, because you are as a professional and as a professional student as you are, when you are attending such sessions, you will have a notepad that you are taking notes. So I'm sure you've got your notepad with you. Now we are doing your career plan. Okay, so we've got a goal. Now with this goal, we are sitting at day 0 today, and 2 years from now, we need to secure that promotion. Okay, so what you're gonna do now is you need to be very specific with this position and the employer himself. Which employer, which position? You need to get the requirements, write the requirements, because you know that a job spec, all that they're asking in a job spec is, do you have the skills to execute this job? So now you need to go identify all these skills or these requirements, the skills requirement, okay? And then you see where I've got the question mark under skills. You're gonna write the skills. You're gonna start listing the skills. Now, once you've listed the skills, then let's say the skill for the engineer is your ability to, let's say it's a design engineer. It's a design engineer that where you're gonna specialize in high pressure piping. Okay, so the position is to secure that engineer position where you're gonna be a design engineer for high pressure piping. Okay, so what skill do you need for high pressure piping? You need to know how to size piping, the high pressure piping. You need to know how to size that piping to comply with ASME B31.3 or 31.1, or it needs to comply with EN 12 or 252. Okay, so what skill do you need? You need a skill to size high pressure piping that complies with ASME B31.3, right? So you write that under skill. Now, what experience do I need to be able to do that, or to demonstrate that I'm able to do that? Now, the biggest problem with a lot of CVs, especially from junior guys, even graduates, is that your CVs, you're gonna go right there under your experience. Let's say you're working for whatever company, and then under your experience, you're going to write a high pressure piping design, right? And then under high pressure piping design, then you say I specified I did the minimum, the wall thickness calculation. I did the stress analysis. Wasting time. Here's how you need to write your experience. Okay. Now with high pressure piping, you need to say I completed 10 high pressure piping. I've completed 10 high pressure piping designs which complied with ASME B31.3. That's how you need to write it. Because by saying how many designs that are linked to this skill that you've completed, it makes your experience quantifiable. Yeah? So now you are able to quantify it. And then it's not wishy-washy. So what does this mean? This means if as you're sitting there, you need to ask yourself, okay, within 2 years, how many high pressure piping designs must I do for me to stand out as being a person who's able to do high pressure piping designs? Then your answer would be, okay, if I can do 10 of these high pressure piping designs within 2 years, surely it would be a good demonstration that I'm able to do this. Perfect. So now you've got a goal. Your goal is, I need to complete 10 high pressure piping designs. Okay. It doesn't really matter or where you complete these designs. So if you're not exposed what you call to high pressure piping designs, then you need to go find somewhere where you can be able to do those designs. Okay. Then once you've identified or set the goal that you want to complete 10 of these things, then the next step is to say, Okay, how can I complete 10 of these things? So if you are working in a design house and they're already doing high pressure piping designs, then it's pretty straightforward. So it means your plan is to mobilize whoever is dishing out the work to give you this work. All right, that's the one way. So whoever is dishing out the work, make sure you bring them close. Hey, chief, I need a high pressure piping design project. Can you hook me up? Oh yeah. There's a project. It's a small design, but I'm sure you can handle it. Yes, I can handle it. Take it. Boom. You run with it. So what do you do if you are sitting now? You're working with the company that you're doing does do high pressure piping designs, but there's no projects or whatever the case may be. You take an old project, you create a mock project for yourself. Take an old project where they did this thing and they had the desired result. You go and work on that project as your mock project. Take the inputs and the outputs. You don't look at the answer, you do it yourself. You don't look at how they did it, you do it yourself. You complete it, then after completing it, you go look at how they did it, and then the way you did it matches very closely or the same as that one. Then you've got the experience. Now that's your first project. Now in your CV, you don't lie and say you did that project. You are honest to say you did a mock project for high pressure, high pressure designing. All right. And then at the end, that line, when you are writing your experience, you'll write there that I completed 10. Let's say all of them end up being mock projects. You completed 10 mock projects where you did high pressure piping design that complies to ASME B313. Maybe you can also include that the pressure rating that you the pressure rating for that high pressure piping. Say for high pressure piping for 1,000 or maybe 2,000 to 10,000 kPa high pressure piping. We understand. So the line will be: I completed 10 high pressure piping designs that comply to ASME B313. Then full stop. These high pressure piping, the pressure rating for the piping ranged between 2,000 kPa and 10,000 kPa. All right. So now you have demonstrated the skill that you know how to do high pressure piping design based on your experience. What else can you do? You can go attend a training on high pressure piping. And then what would you do after you've attended that training? Make sure that you get the attendance certificate, and then in your CV, right, you make sure that under the section of training you put that, right? If there's a qualification attached to that, linked to that skill, you can then put, and then we are covered under qualification. And then if it's certification, you're covered under certification. Now from here, you need to say, okay, this is the skill that I want. This is my target in terms of the experience. Now you need to have a target in terms of the training. Okay, so how do you get the training target? There's different options, guys, where you can get an attendance certificate. Different options. You can use if it's available on platforms like LinkedIn Learning, Udemy. There's a lot of these cheap online courses where you can do this thing. You find maybe there's a free course from Autodesk. You do that free course from Autodesk. Then now you need to now identify what training must you complete or are you going to complete to support this skill that they're going to want in that position in the future. All right, guys, I can make hundreds of examples. The point here is take that engineer position, identify the skills, then from those skills put measurable targets in terms of experience. In terms of training, identify what training you need to complete. In terms of qualification, identify what qualification you need to complete to support these skills and certification. Okay, so this now ties into the qualification one, ties into the question that was asked earlier, that perhaps the emphasis is on certification. Not really. The emphasis is on certification because the path that we are talking about here, guys, is such that certification is important. All right. And remember that today I'm talking with graduate engineers. All right. So with graduate engineers, unlike with artisans, because if you're an artisan, then qualifications then will feature a lot in your plan, because once you've got your trade certificate, you still need to go now do your N6, N5, N6, perhaps do your national diploma, perhaps do your BTech. You understand? So as an artisan, then qualifications start being very important. Now, how do you gain experience? I think I've answered that. Okay. Focus on skills. And then those skills, once you identify the skills for your next position, identify the type of experience, training, qualification, or certification that you need. If you can't get the experience, focus on the training, qualification, or certification, because that is also something that supports that you do have the skill that is required for that position. All right. If you can get the experience, make sure that your experience is measurable. So, in other words, make sure that you say, I want to complete X, say the number of projects or activities. All right. When, for example, when I was still doing CVs and applying for jobs and what have you, how I got, for example, the Sasol job was that in my CV, I literally wrote, because I know that doing root cause analysis in maintenance and operations is very important. So what I wrote on my CV was to say I completed, I think at that time I completed over 80 root cause analysis for plant failures. So whoever's reading my CV is like, hey, Mara, if this guy has completed 80 of these things within this short period of time, then surely he can do root cause analysis for our plant. And as VAR, now because they saw that, then when I come to the interview, they look at that line. No, so we see that you've done root cause analysis. So what was your approach to root cause analysis? So you see, you can't lie about these things. Because if you lie, then you get to the interview, they ask you that thing. Okay, what was your process? Your process? How did you do the root cause? Okay, step one, I did this. Step two, this. Oh, okay, no, perfect. Okay, and then what sort of failures? Oh, okay. On these 80 failures, I did what you call about 10 failures for F defense. I did about 20 failures on boilers. Da, 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 da. Oh, okay. You see. So now, because remember that your CV needs to be a summary that what you call that opens the door. So you're knocking and you want to open the door into getting the interview. Then in the interview, you must just kill it. So all the measurable things that you've mentioned in your CV, then you get to the interview, you become very specific and break everything down. Understand? Even where you are saying, no, I did mock projects in order to prove I can do this thing, right? You say it in the CV to demonstrate that. I think we are clear. All right. Now let's talk about the work-life transition. And before I go in there, I'm just gonna double check if there's any. Let me double check if there's any questions. Are there any questions so far, guys? Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. So this is a very, very, very good question. Right. So if there's training where they don't offer certificates, then how do you then provide proof of attendance? Remember, training, there's no certification in training, guys. Training is proof of attendance. No one is certifying you. So let me go back to this slide and then clarify also what is a training, what is a qualification, and what is certification. I think it's very important that you understand the difference between training, certification, and qualification. All right. So let's start with training. Now, with training, when you have attended the training, they do not evaluate you whether you understood what they trained you about. The only thing that training does is say, okay, you attended, you were there, we imparted the knowledge. We did examples, maybe there was a class exercise, whatever, but they don't evaluate you with training. All right. And the only thing that can be issued with training is what you call your proof of attendance. With yes, I attended this training. Okay. So whatever training that you do, that you want at the end of the day to go into your CV, make sure that they're going to issue you with a proof of attendance. A proof of attendance in training is not certifying you on anything. It's not qualifying you on anything. It's just saying you attended and you attended this training, and this training covered ABCD. Finish and clear. Okay. Now, number 2, qualifications. What is a qualification? A qualification, what happens in a qualification is they impart the knowledge, then they evaluate you. Okay. And then when they evaluate you, then you need to obtain a minimum percentage for them to declare that yes, you have met the requirements of this qualification. Now, qualification and unit standards, you can put them under the same umbrella, because with qualification, important thing with qualification is that it needs to be registered. Now, in the South African context, it needs to be registered with the South African Qualifications Authority. Now, in the international context, it needs to be registered with the institution or the qualification institution for that country. Now, in certain instances, you find that your international qualification, when you bring it to South Africa, then you take it to SAQA, the South African Qualifications Authority, for them to say, yes, based on what is presented, then this qualification is equivalent to our South African qualification that we have. Right. Now, important thing, qualification, they impart the knowledge. You do some practical assessments where they evaluate you and give you a percentage, and you must get a certain percentage on that evaluation, right? And then you write an exam and they examine you, and you must get a minimum percentage for that. I think for everyone, qualification is very clear, because everyone who's here today has a qualification and they've went through the qualification process. Right. Now let's talk about professional certification. Now, with professional certification, the evaluation is done. If you, for example, you look at PRNG, you look at any certification for that matter, even PMP and so forth. Certification looks at your experience, it looks at your training, it looks at your qualification, and says, if you've got this qualification and you've got this training and you've got this experience, right, then we as a certifying body are happy to say that you have the minimum requirements to be declared a competent person for the certification that we are issuing. Example, PR-Eng. PR-Eng, all you do is the first submission, the submission that you're doing is they say, what's your experience? This is my experience. Can you write a report on that experience where you've done this design or whatever? Yeah, here's the experience that I've done. Here's the report of that experience. Oh, okay, perfect. Did you do any training during the period between you getting your qualification to you seeking certification? Yeah, I've done this training and that training. Okay, perfect. You've got the qualification. Yes, I've got the qualification. All right, and then come to a interview so that we can make sure that indeed you are the person with this experience. They ask you one or two questions and then like, no, you're fine. And then they give you a certification. So there's no pass mark or percentage or whatever. It's just an evaluation of whether you've gained the right experience, you've done the right training, and you've obtained the right qualification. Therefore, we can certify that you are a competent person for this certification that you are doing. So in this example, PR-Eng. Okay. So to answer, I know it was a long answer, but the short answer is any training that you do, make sure that you get it offers a proof of attendance of some sort, right? And then make sure once you've got that proof of attendance, make copies and then certify whenever required. All right. Okay, so let's go back to our section of work-life transition. Is there any other question, guys? All right, so I think that was the last question. Now, let's talk about work-life balance, right? Remember what I said, ne? Your career is not a charity. You're not here to. We are here to earn money. Okay, so this thing of saying, "Hey, I just want a job, even if I don't get paid, just to get experience." We are here we are here to earn money. So if you want to get that experience, do a mock project and then go and get a position so that you actually earn money. It's not a charity. So the same applies with the business. The business is not a charity. Okay. So you're not there, what you call to just play around and not play your part and not contribute towards the business. The biggest downfall of some engineers is that when you are now employed, you don't play your part. And then when you don't play your part, then the promotions don't come. If you don't play your part, the opportunities don't come. You're hired to work. You're not hired to be trained. You're hired to work. So the one thing that I've observed with some graduates is that they've got this mentality of saying, "Well, I'm going to work. I'm being employed here so that I can be trained." You are not being paid to be trained. You are being paid to work. So if you from day one can focus on that, or no, I'm here because I'm being paid to work, then you focus on impact. Because the only way that you're going to gain that experience, where, for example, we're talking about to say, if you want high pressure to get to finish 10 high pressure piping designs, if you've got the mentality that I'm here to be trained, you'll never think about saying, no man, okay, I understand that I'm in EIT, what, but can I have a project so that I can also work and what you call and contribute towards the bigger picture of the organization. So if you've got that mentality that I'm here, I'm hired to work, then you wake up every morning, you go and you work and you look for work. You don't get excited by saying that they didn't give me any work, so I just sat the whole day. Yeah. That's a very dangerous thing to do as a graduate. So as a graduate, from day one, don't go if you get there and then you are waiting for your boss to give you work. That's mistake number one. You are there to work. So if you are there to work, attend the team meetings. Pick up okay, they're dropping the ball here. Raise your hand. Can I pick up this ball? That's how I got my first project when I was a graduate. Within the first 2 to 3 weeks of working, I got my first project because I attended these team meetings, and then I listened. I listened and I listened and I saw, okay, they're dropping the ball here. Then I said, okay, can I pick up this ball? Because no one wants to pick it up. And then they said, okay, cool, run with it. Meanwhile, others were just sitting, waiting for the boss to give them work. You'll sit for 3 months waiting for your boss to give you work, especially in big companies. So we are there to work. If you are there to work, see where they are dropping the ball. Come and say, can I pick up that ball? 1. 2, have a clear goal. Share that goal with your line manager or share. I want to do this. I want to complete 10 of these designs in the next 2 years. Please give me an opportunity. Give me one. Let me prove myself. And then if I do a good job, then you give me another one. You see, because you are there to work. Your employer, your boss will never say no for you to work. You are there to work. Your colleagues are there to earn a salary and not to help you earn your salary. So another mistake is when we are transitioning from student life to work life is this thing of not understanding or the people who are there, who you are expecting them to help you, they're not there to help you, bruh. They are there to earn a salary. They are there to work. So if they are busy wasting time helping you, and then their KPIs are not being achieved, then you are stealing from their mouth. So if you have got the mentality of saying, this business is not a charity, 1, 2, I'm there to work, 3, my colleagues are not there to what you call, they are there to earn a salary and not to earn my salary. Because if you're gonna be 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line in working, and you are still thinking of yourself as I'm here for training, I'm being trained, I want they must give me work, that's a very fast way of not succeeding in your engineering career. Student life was well defined, but work life is different. What do I mean that student life is well defined? Well, student life, if you, for example, like my mechanical engineering degree, on day 1, they told me that this degree is done in 4 years. On day 1, they told me that year 1, you're gonna do these things. For you to move to year 2, you must complete these subjects. All right. On year 1, those subjects, they tell you for you to pass physics 1, you must attend 6 lectures, you must complete 4 assignments, you must pass the semester test and then pass the exam, and then you will move to the next level. So can you hear how well defined that is? It's easy. It's easy. Huh? You know exactly what, okay, if I wake up every day and I go and I attend this lecture, I read this book, I complete this assignment, I study for this test, I pass this test, I'm going to move to the next level. With work life, it's different. You're going to get to work day 1, there's no blueprint. At least for a lot of companies, there's no blueprint. And that's why today's session is very important, because today's session, what you should have been doing or writing is your blueprint. And that's what we've been doing today. Or your blueprint, now you need to say, okay, we are working towards year 3, all right? Now, first year, what must I do? Second year, what must I do? Third year, what must I do for me to qualify to get that promotion? So the biggest problem with a lot of graduates is that they don't have a plan. They don't have this blueprint. And because you don't have this blueprint, then you already, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You've already failed, because you're not saying year 1, year 2, year 3. So if even when you look at the qualification, same story. Imagine if you went to go do your mechanical engineering degree and then they don't tell you what are you going to complete in year one. There will be strikes because they will say, hey, so what must happen? So why are you not striking in your own work life? Because in your work life, you should be having a plan year one. What am I going to do? And after year three, what's the milestone? What happens after year three? Right? With a degree, after year four, you are going to get your qualification. Right? I'm going to get my qualification. Then once I get my qualification, then I can go get a job and earn money and provide for myself and my family. Your focus should be on gaining the right skills. And I think I'm not going to emphasize this point any further, because I think in the previous slides, I've emphasized and I've shown you what the formula is. The formula is you must get skills, and how you get those skills is a combination of experience, training, qualification, certification. Focus on that. If you can, get a mentor. If you can't get a mentor, what you call follow Paulo Craft GCC study. Go to our blog post, where attend our free live sessions. That's how you want to get ahead. Now let's talk about your CV. I think for your CV, you've already have a picture based on what we've discussed, right? Now, you need to focus your CV on accomplishments. Writing that you did a root cause analysis on your CV is not enough. You need to say, I completed 50 root cause analysis for the plant. Okay, just saying I do root cause analysis. In other words, don't just go and copy and paste. I get it. In a job, they give you your job description and say, this is your job description, these are your activities. Don't just copy those and paste them in your CV. No. You need to think about the position that you're applying for, and think about the accomplishments that are required for that position, and be specific in your experience. All right. So focus on your work. Focus on your work accomplishment. Focus on critical skills. Now, I showed you a CV, guys. Just write it the way I've shown you. On the first page, you can actually put that in reverse. All right. So let me go to that slide quickly. From here, you can put it in reverse. You can start with certification in your CV, and then list all your certification, qualification, list all your qualification, training, list all your training, and then experience. Now, in your experience, you start with your latest experience and then work backwards. Okay. And when you write your experience, you don't write wishy-washy things. You don't write wishy-washy things, right? You focus on work accomplishments. And what this means is, as of today, you need to focus on recording all your accomplishments. You need to have a record. In maintenance and operation, an important skill is ability to complete root cause analysis, your ability to reduce increase the mean time between failures. Okay, so you need to keep record on how many equipment have you increased the mean time between failure. If you come to a plant and then this pump was failing every 2 weeks, and then you did an intervention that resulted in this pump failing every 6 months, you write that in your CV. Or I increased the mean time between failure of a centrifugal, a 2000 kPa centrifugal pump from 2 weeks to 6 months. Measurable, specific. Right? You can even measure the overall mean time between failure of the entire system, and say, okay, the average is 3 months. Every 3 months, our plan fails. Then you came with interventions to move it from 3 months to 6 months or 1 year, whatever the case may be. So focus on skills. Emphasis on certification, qualifications, and training. If you attend, keep all your training certificates, guys. If you attend any training, keep that certificate. Make sure that you you list it, and then if they want proof of the training, then you are able to provide it. But in your CV, you just list. Then if they want the evidence, you provide. Now, I emphasize again, you get hired because of your skills, which is your experience, qualification, training, and certification. You can get your experience through different means. You don't have to wait to get experience from actually getting an employer who employs you to do certain things to get that experience. You can volunteer, do community projects, home projects. You can do mock projects. There's a lot of options to gain experience. Focus on that. And with that said, I think that's what we have time for today. There was actually more that we can chat about. Remember, there were 6 steps, so we covered only 3 steps. So because of time, because I saw that we will never be able to do all the other steps. So because of time, we'll end it on these 3 steps today. Are there any questions, guys? Whilst I'm waiting, if there's any questions, I would like to thank you for making time to join us today, and I want to congratulate you for taking your career very seriously, because attending this session, I do believe that there is some insights that would improve the approach that you're going to take moving forward. I know that these insights are important and they work, because I mentor a lot of graduates. I work with a lot of graduates, and I know that a lot of these insights they either don't know or they don't consider them. So thank you very much for attending. And if there is no other question, then we'll close this live session. You want I see a question. Can you post a CV template? We'll send the CV template. What you can do is you can make sure that you subscribe to our website, to our mailing list as well. So you visit www.palocraftgccstudy.com. I'll write the website now. Make sure that you go there and subscribe to our mailing list for more tips and more resources. We'll send out a a CV template. All right. Thank you, Tiseto. Thank you, Kagiso. Thank you, Pilani. Thank you, Spusiso. Thank you, Charity. And if there's no other questions, I'm going to end the live. And if you've got any other question, guys, you can always email Palocraft, info@palocraft.co.za, or you can visit our website. And on our website, you'll see there's a chat button on the bottom right. Click that chat button, send us a message, and then we'll respond to that. Can you cover info for apprentice and artisan? Yes, we did that 2 weeks back. So we did cover artisans 2 weeks back. So just check our. Let me see, you're on Facebook. So if you're on, let me see. Oh yeah, you're on Facebook. So check on our Facebook page. Just check on the timeline there. Then the timeline. Then you'll see the content covering artisans. And then thank you, Pilani. All right, guys. I think if there's no other question, All right. All right, guys. Yeah, if there's no other question, thank you very much for joining. And yeah, we'll check you on our next what you call a live event. We'll share more information on our next live event. And yeah, guys, if you can just subscribe to our mailing list, we're gonna have this program like as a complete online course where we go into details on some of these matters. So with that said, thank you very much and enjoy your Saturday.